Welcome back to Play-by-Play Sports Broadcasting Camps. I am Chase Coburn. Today I am joined by a very special guest, a longtime NBA center and power forward in the NBA and current assistant coach at Rider University, Jason Thompson. Jason, thank you so much for joining and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Chase. I'm excited for all the questions you're about to ask me.
Of course, I'm excited that you're here to answer them. So you said you wanted to get into questions, so let's get into it right now. So a big reason why we're having you on today is because the Sacramento Kings, who are making the postseason for the first time since you were playing at Rider in 2006. And, they're up 2-0. You were at both games, of course, going against the Golden State Warriors. And, in fact, you've actually played – there's been more guys that have played with the Royals, but you've actually played the most games ever as a Sacramento King. So there's no better person to talk to about them than, of course, you. So, kind of break down what makes what really about this team, makes them so special. What's the most intriguing part about this Sacramento squad?
I think it's just how Mike Brown has just changed the culture. He's obviously seen success. He has a lot of success with the Cleveland Cavaliers when he was coaching LeBron, a young LeBron. And then he was with the Warriors. So he kind of was around that culture as well. I think he's with the Nigerian Olympic basketball team as well, if I'm not mistaken, and changed that team around too. So, everywhere he's gone, he has, changed the culture. And then you have a legit superstar in De'Aaron Fox, that's a point guard and is leading the way. Everyone was, wondering about the trade with Sabonis, but, a guy that was an all-star with the Pacers. And then you have that type of system. He's a pass-first big that can get you a double-double and even triple-double every night. And he does stuff on both ends of the floor. Then you got Malik Monk, who's a guy that, is De'Aaron's right-hand man, when it comes to Kentucky. So you have a core. You got Harrison Barnes, who is a great glue guy. He knows the championship formula because he played for the Warriors. And, like I said, they have a great, solid bench. Guys know their roles. They play fast-paced. They look like they're having a great time out there. They were number one in offense. And then everyone was speculating how their defense was going to be. But, everything kind of just tightens up in the playoffs. So, like I said, I may be surprised with their seeding and how well of the year they were going to have. But, on paper and that culture, man, you just knew that they were destined for success.
So a player you just touched on briefly was Domantas Sabonis. And, he is just an incredible big, as you just mentioned. And in fact, funny enough, you guys are almost like the exact same person. He's 6'11", 240. You're 6'11", 250. Break down a little bit more about Sabonis and some other bigs that you like in the NBA currently.
Yeah, I mean, just how the game has changed. I think that he can shoot outside more, but, he knows his game, and he's a pass-first big. He can score, but he'd rather have, it seems like he'd rather have 12 assists than, 20 points. But, he brings that toughness as well. Most guys, I think back in the day that used to put up big numbers weren't that tough. And, he brings that toughness, obviously, with, the situation he had with Draymond. But like I said, that's just playoff basketball. Then, like you said, you got Trey Lyles that comes in and can spread the floor. He has a certain type of toughness as well. He got into, I think, a fight with Brook Lopez with the Bucks and stuff like that too. So like you said, man, you need those type of guys that are going to die for loose balls and do the little things to get the wins. So they did what they're supposed to do, get those 2 wins in Sacramento. It was lively, man. It was a crazy atmosphere. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to do in San Francisco.
It will, because the Warriors are one of the top 3 home teams in the NBA. That will be interesting. However, as you just mentioned throughout these past few minutes, they really are a terrific team. I kind of want to break down your career as well. You spent the majority of your career in Sacramento. For most of your time you were with the organization, you played with DeMarcus Cousins, who, like yourself, was a center who was a first-round pick. However, you still were able to start because of your versatility on the floor, being able to play power forward. What was it like to play with a guy like DeMarcus Cousins, and what was the transition like going from center to power forward?
Yeah, I just think that when I got drafted, I just, was drafted as a power forward. And then, with my versatility, I was able to still be a center. I even sometimes in my rookie year, I played the small forward as well. It's just different times when, when I was drafted in 2008, it was those bigs. Like Memphis Grizzlies had Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol. The Clippers had Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, actual bigs. You didn't have those 6'4", 6'5" centers. And like I said, my first couple of years, is when I probably put up, my most, stats. And then when Cuz came in, obviously with his talent, he got the ball a little bit more. At times, it was different, playing with him. Like, I was having, good high scoring games than he would. And then just the balance of that. And, when I came into the league, I was able to shoot threes and stuff. But that at the time, I was doing more post ups and mid range. And that's what we were doing. And then eventually at times we would, change it up. So, obviously his game, changed. I just think at times it was tough because sometimes we were just running into each other in the same, positions and spots. But, time heals all wounds of that. And, in my tenure, man, it was just crazy having 7 coaches in 7 years.
Yeah, that is crazy to be able to have that much, system changes and all that. That must have been hard to adjust to. I'll kind of follow you up on that. I mean, what was that like? I mean, 7 different coaches, that's 7 brand new systems and cultures that you have to relate to. Kind of dig deeper into that thought, kind of how you had to play with so many different systems and cultures throughout your career.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough to say the least. You're coming in there as a young rookie, and I had Reggie Theus to start, and then eventually I had, then he got fired, mid season, and later on I had new trades, and then we went younger, and like I said, every season, after the season, I was going to the fans and saying that I had to, I wasn't sure if the team was going to stay in Sacramento. So, after that, I was saying hello to the fans. And then, next training camp, I have a new coach and new system and new teammates. And then it just, like I said, just kept happening each and every year. And, the times, like I use the example all the time of like how the Sixers were with the trust the process. Brent Brown was there a significant amount of times, and losing seasons before, they started getting to the playoffs and stuff like that too. But at least even if they had the same system, the same coach, and most of the same coaching staff. So that's a little bit of an easier of a cushion to play with that, regardless of their non-success early on.
Right. And, I also do want to continue to touch on your career because that is very interesting. But not only have you got to be with a lot of interesting coaches, you've got to play with, let's call them interesting players because, well, at the end of your career in 2016, you played 28 games for the Warriors during their 73-9 campaign, going 24-4 before being signed by Toronto and then came off the bench in the franchise's first ever conference finals appearance. So break down what it was like to play with so far the only unanimous MVP in NBA history and Steph Curry, one of the greatest teams ever, and then continuing to play winning basketball at Toronto throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most humblest, superstars. That's what even made going to the Kings Warriors playoff series a little bit, weird, just because you have blood, sweat, and tears for an organization for so long. But then, I was, and most of the team of the Kings, nobody was there when I was there. But at least with the Warriors, the whole core is still there and staff and stuff like that too. So it was a little bit, weird when it came to that. But like I said, it just from that year changing and getting traded to them, man, you see how the culture was just different. They had came off winning their first championship, so they already had the blueprint, and part of it was how cool and collective that we were in practice. And like you said, they just translated to the game. So having the best start in NBA history was kind of just crazy, especially there was no championship hangover. You got right back to it. And then, like I said, eventually I ended up going to the Raptors and being around that culture as well in Canada, and had Kyle and DeMar and all them leading the way. And playing it with those guys was great as well too. Kyle being from the same area I'm from as well in Philadelphia. So like I said, man, it was just a blessing, and I was just enjoying the ride.
Yeah, you were mentioning now, of course, you're a longtime King. You also played with, that whole coaching staff and that whole core. So I could probably tell how hard that is to have to cheer against that team that you're very familiar with as well. But I want to ask you, the Kings right now, again, they're up 2-0 against the Warriors, but do you think they'll be able to get past the series with the Warriors going home? And how far do you expect Sacramento to go?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with Draymond not playing in Game 3, it's going to be really, interesting with the series. As much as I have love and respect for the Warriors, but throughout the season and the regular season, they weren't good road teams. So I don't think too many people are surprised. I know they said I think Steph never was down 0-2 in any series or first round series, but for some odd reason they just weren't good on the road. So, when they get to Chase Center, man, it's going to be a different type of atmosphere. But that's still a tough Kings team that has played well on the road as well. You're the champs until you're not anymore. So, they have a lot, going with this because I'm sure, I don't know the percentages, but if you're down 3-0, I'm not sure it's a very high percentage of guys
Yeah.
coming back in that series. So, it's gonna be rocking, and it's gonna be really interesting to see.
So you are currently an assistant coach at Rider University, and you guys did some great things in your first year there last year, finishing second in the MAC, which included an 8-game winning streak throughout the middle of the season. What do you think is so special about this team? And then, kind of on the flip side, we've seen in the past few tournaments that all the teams that have made Cinderella runs have been teams in New Jersey: St. Peter's, Princeton, Fairleigh Dickinson. So, what kind of makes you think the Rider could possibly be the next New Jersey Cinderella?
Yeah, I mean, we had those high hopes, this year. We had some guys come back, had some good guys from the portal come onto the team. We started off the season kind of tough with just our out-of-conference schedule, played out in Ireland for a tournament, and then came right back and had to play like Rutgers at Rutgers. But like you said, when we got into the conference, we beat Iona down like 20-something and won at the buzzer, and then had a game, like you said, winning streak right after that. So, it's tough when it comes to mid-major because regardless of your record, you're not, you have to win the conference championship to get into the tournament. 9 times out of 10 guys aren't getting at-large bids. So it kind of puts, a little bit of pressure on the higher seeds to do well. I mean, if you think about it, the last place team made the championship against the first place team, and both last place teams played each other in the semifinals, which tells you that, like I said, it's an open type of format. But even look at the NCAA tournament with the upsets, like, it's one and done. There is no series. So there were a lot of upsets with the 1 seeds, and I think it's the first time in a while where no 1 seeds made it to the Final Four, if I'm not mistaken. But like I said, that just makes that's what makes the NCAA tournament so special, of just the upsets, and you never know what is going to happen because it's one game. If you have one bad game, then your season is done.
Something that I find very interesting about your career is that you played the full 82-game season 3 times. You played 81 games in 2015. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, you played the most games ever as a Sacramento King. So you were a very durable player, always able to be out on the floor. Now we're in an NBA where players will sit out due to slight injuries. But the NBA luckily has made a rule coming up that a player will have to play at least 65 games to qualify for any statistic or any award or anything like that. So what are your thoughts on load management and how the NBA handled the problem with the new rules?
Yeah, man. I mean, they had gave me the nickname Iron Man in Sacramento. That's all I knew. I mean, I was obviously blessed to be able to make it to the NBA, but I always tell kids nowadays the goal is not to make it; is to be able to, have a long career and maintain, your career. So, with that being said, I just wanted to just make sure I took care of my body, was working on my game. Obviously, it's unfortunate that I wasn't able to stay in the same system with the same coach for a significant amount of time, especially when you're with the same franchise. But, for me, I just feel like I survived through the storm. And, when I came back to the games, all the fans and diehard Kings fans, respected that, from me, regardless of all ups and downs we had to go through the organization. And that meant a lot. So for, it's tough to say because I don't try to judge guys now, but, I think that, it's becoming more of a players league, which, makes me think that, hey, I wish I was born a little bit later. But like I said, man, it's still fun to watch. It's high scoring, way more 3-pointers shot and made nowadays. You guys got people breaking records with LeBron and his longevity of how he's been playing. Who knows if anyone's ever going to pass him, on being the all-time leading scorer. So,
right.
The game is going in the right direction. And, a lot of guys even older than me may not like how it's going, but, they're still going to watch, and so are millions and millions of fans.
Right, and you actually just touched on briefly about how the goal was not to make it to the NBA, it's to have a sustained career in the NBA, and that is literally kind of an introduction, or that was kind of foreshadowing to my question here coming up before we do wrap up the show. I mean, yes, you do have to have a sustained career, but with the NBA draft coming up, I want to know from you, what is it like to stand on that podium and be picked, especially in the first round? What is that feeling of getting all that pressure off your shoulders, at least a little bit of it, and getting drafted into the big boys league?
Well, my situation is a little bit different than the average. Making a long story short, but you can check it out on YouTube. But me being from a small school, I didn't get invited to the green room, but I had NBA TV, ESPN did a little documentary on it the night before the draft, and Comcast and all those came to my house. So this is, and I've heard stories where it either can go good or bad when it comes to that. So I just remember like having the TVs on in the house, pacing, not knowing what to think. And I remember the Blazers had the 11th pick, and then David Stern gets onto the podium. And then he goes with the 12th pick, the Sacramento Kings select. And then he said Jason Thompson. And, like I said, we find out we didn't have Woj's back in the day where they'd already let maybe, a couple minutes before on Twitter and stuff. Twitter actually came out when I was a rookie, like right after the draft, which is crazy to say. So then now I go outside, I'm hugging my, and then the whole neighborhood just comes out and just starts suing. Stuff, man. So it's crazy. Even before the draft, I'm outside pacing, trying to get some fresh air. I think everybody's like looking in the blinds to see like, oh, that's him. Let's see how, you know what I mean? And then I go outside and everyone just starts storming me. And it was crazy. Then we ended up going like 15 minutes away to a draft party, and all people from my neighborhood, friends, family, high school, college, all came, and I couldn't even get in. It took me like an hour and a half to get inside just because of all the media and stuff that was there. So it was a blessing, man. It's really something I can't explain. But it was, like I said, it's something that you dream up as a kid, and it's like dreams do come true.
They really do. What an interesting story, and what a great interview, to say the least. Guys, this was Jason Thompson. Jason, thank you so much for coming on and, coming on the show with us, giving us a great time, giving the viewers some enjoyment. And some of your answers are really interesting. I really, liked hearing your perspective as an NBA player and all that, as someone that was durable, as you said, getting into the NBA and all that stuff. So, Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, no problem, man. One thing I want to say for you, man, is one thing that got me intrigued is because when I was your age, I wanted to be an analyst.
Really?
So, and then in college, I went for communications, TV, radio. So I was doing a lot of things, even when I was with the Kings and the Warriors. I did stuff in studio and stuff like that. So,
Cool.
Yeah, so when you reached out to me talking about broadcasting, man, it really, I'm really, excited for you. So, one thing I could tell you, man, is just, keep up the good work. And it takes a lot to be on this type of podium to talk to different guys. So, it's fun. It might be challenging at times, but, don't ever let someone tell you can't do anything in life.
Yes, Jason, thank you so much. And good luck this season with Ryder. I'd say go Bronx, but I'm a Fairfield U fan, so I can't really say that.
It's all right. You can root for us until we play the Stag.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, thank you so much for joining. Good luck next season. And, go Kings.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.